last one, and this is maybe the most boy question on the planet. What is the biggest animal you could beat in a fight?
Okay, so I've talked about this a lot, actually.
See, I told you. The most boy question ever.
Yeah, I've had this debate before.
Tekoah Roby sitting down with us here today. Hey, man, I wanted to start with your high school days. My understanding, I think you said in an interview in the past that you were a little bit of a late bloomer, right? Like kind of like junior year was kind of when things started to take off a little bit.
Yeah, I would say like the junior season, like baseball season, and then that summer is when things kind of started to take off.
So, but your senior season, right? That was the COVID year, right? 2020.
Yeah.
So, did that give you a little bit of pause or a little bit of worry because you're like you only threw like 3 innings, right?
Yeah, I think I had like 3 innings and then 3 innings in like a scrimmage or something like that. I don't know if it would have helped or hindered having that season. I'm not really sure. I was just kind of there for whatever, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, so you only ended up going, like you said, three innings. But you still had a scholarship, at least, right, to Troy?
Yeah, I had the scholarship to Troy, and then that was, at that point, we were getting like, we had the winter meetings with scouts that would come to the house, and then we had my agent had told me that it's a possibility, but it was still too far in the future to really know. So it was kind of just, there was a big buffer zone where it was like, I don't really know what's going to happen,
For Troy, like you were, at least in high school, my understanding, you were still two-waying, right? Like you were still swinging and stuff.
Yeah.
So was that the plan when you got to college at that point?
No, I was still going to go just be a pitcher at Troy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So when did that start forming for you, that pitching was kind of the way to go? Like we've talked to a couple of guys about it. We talked to Max Rajic about it. Like Rajic was like still trying to two-way when he got to UCLA. But for you, like when was it like, all right, man, I think this hitting thing's done? Yeah.
So interestingly enough, I've kind of always been a pitcher first. Like even when I was, first started kid pitch, I was really kind of a better pitcher than I was a hitter. Like I remember when I was 8, so where we're from, you start doing kid pitch at 9. And when I was 8 years old, I got to like go pitch in kid pitch. Like the team wanted me to come pitch for them. So I've always kind of been a pitcher first. I loved hitting, but I knew that pitching was probably going to be my future.
But were you still trying to hang on, or like do you remember your like last at bats, or well, I guess you probably didn't even really think about it, right? Because it wasn't your last senior year yet.
Yeah, I do. I really miss hitting. I still like sit in the dugouts and I'm like, man, that looks like a lot of fun. Just being able to play every day looks like a lot of fun. I do remember my last at bat. It was in a scrimmage. I did hit a home run, but I miss it. I do. Hitting was a lot of fun. Playing a position's fun.
That's 2, by the way. I think Rajic said the same thing. That
did
his
really?
Last at bat was a homer too. I mentioned Troy. Troy was where you're going to end up going before you ended up getting drafted. When did you realize that like that wasn't going to happen? When did you make that decision, or what kind of made you make that decision?
Yeah, so I remember a couple days leading up to the draft, I went to see my agent in Nashville, and he was my agent at the time, and we kind of sat down and we decided that if we got this number in the draft, it was a conversation. Like I wanted to play pro ball. He was telling me that it was a real possibility, and I said, okay, well, I'll sign for this much money, and then. The day before the draft, I actually had my college coach call me, and he was like, I heard you're willing to take this like X amount of money in the draft, and he wasn't too pleased with that, but it was kind of in my head. I just wanted to play baseball. I was always good in school, but baseball has always been my passion.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like everyone has a number that makes sense, but for you, like, was that a difficult decision? Was it like? How does that? I guess the better question here is like, how does that work? Do the teams come to you and be like, hey man, we're interested in drafting you in this round, and you're starting to have those conversations, and you're like, well, this is the number, and if it's anything short of that, then I'm going to school. Like, how did that work out for you?
Yeah, well, I'll say this: like having an agent in that process is just huge. Like they're the ones that will talk to the teams for you. They've been through like this before, so it's always really helpful to have them, but. Essentially, yeah, that's what it was. Your agent goes out and is like, "Hey, are you willing to draft this kid?" are you interested? Or they go to the agent, and then, obviously I'll have conversations with him saying like, yes, I want to sign. I'll sign for this much money. He'll kind of, throw a number out there, and then we'll kind of come to an agreement on if we do get this much, then we'll go. But if not, then we'll go to school.
I'm sure that was a really weird situation. I mean, it's probably weird for everybody, especially that year though. Like, it's such a shortened draft, and it's just such a you're like watching things on Zoom like 24/7. So it must have been super weird. So I kind of stalked you a little bit online, but I found the video of when you got drafted. You or somebody, I don't know if it was you, I assume it was you, on your Instagram recording the video of MLB Network when they said your name. First of all, was that you recording that video?
That was not me.
Okay,
that was
I was going to say, because I was going to say, there's zero reaction in that video. Yeah. So what was the reaction in the Roby household?
Well, so the stream that we were watching it on, it just like my name just kind of just flashed across the screen. It wasn't like, I didn't see that stream, the one of the guy saying my name and then they played the video or whatever. Oh. So the reaction was basically just like we were waiting. I got the call like a couple picks before saying that, the Rangers were going to pick me, and my name flashed, and it was just like the room kind of lit up. Like everybody was just like, oh my gosh. I like hugged my girlfriend sitting next to me, my dad, my mom. Like it was cool. It was a pretty cool experience.
Were you expecting to go at that time before that phone call, or were you starting to get nervous yet?
No, I mean I was basically my agent had told me to just, watch the draft, like be by my phone on the set, because that was day 2. They only did the first round that year on day 1. And he was just like, just be by your phone. Like, I think it's a real possibility.
And 12 runs batted in 19 ball games. And he takes strike 3 called here. Tekoah Roby opens up the championship series.
I also saw you were doing this little podcast a while ago, and I saw you mention something that I've never heard of before. I could be completely naive on this, but you said that you were about to head out to join the club, like you said, with the Rangers you were drafted by, and they were going to teach you how to cook. That they were going to like hook you up with a nutritionist and all this kind of stuff. I don't know if that's par for the course across Major League Baseball or not. I'd never heard of that. How did that go? Like, did you learn how to cook?
Well, I mean, sort of, yeah. So right after the draft, we had, like, that was still during COVID, so I didn't go out to Arizona to meet, I mean, I went and signed in Texas in July, and then I was back home until September. So for, like, those 2 months-ish, like, we had Zoom calls with our nutritionist, and she was giving us, like, tips on how to, how to eat better, blah, 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 like how to grocery shop, these things to kind of go with being a professional baseball player. And then when we went to that first Instructs, we did have cooking classes.
That's crazy.
She was she was really good at her job, and I was thankful for that. She was cool.
Did you learn anything? Like legitimately?
Yeah.
Like
I mean, I learned how to grocery shop a little better. It was like I bought like fresher ingredients, I didn't buy a bunch of junk food, that kind of thing. Yeah. But yeah.
Well, yeah, because you're still a high schooler essentially at that point, right?
Yeah.
So like it's like cookies and candy and whatever pops up. Be remiss, obviously, we got to talk about the trade, man. Like, I know that you've talked ad nauseum on this, so I kind of want to take a different angle on this. You were traded to St. Louis. The Jordan Montgomery trade obviously was a big deal at the time. It still is, still affects you, obviously. You're in the St. Louis system. You were rehabbing at the time, though.
Yeah.
While in Double-A with Frisco, right, at the time? How weird was that part of it all? Like, just not even, like, really being with the team at the time and, like, keeping your head, trying to stay away from the rumors. What was swirling through your head in those days?
I mean, not really a ton. For probably, like, the past, like, leading up to that time, the past, like, year or two, I had known that, like, I could be in a trade. It could happen. Like, nobody's really untradeable. So, like, knowing that, like, coming up to the deadline, I was just conscious of it. I didn't really think much of it, but I definitely didn't. Being in rehab, I thought it was way less of a chance, and then it happened. So,
how serious of that injury, like, were you dealing with at the time?
It wasn't that serious. I took 3 weeks off from throwing, and I was in the middle of, like, my mound progression. So I was pretty close to being back, probably like three weeks from being back. So
you were pretty close then.
Yeah.
Again, I want to take a different angle on this. So you're rehabbing. You're on the Frisco roster.
Mm-hmm.
You're rehabbing in Arizona.
Yeah.
And then you get traded, and I'm assuming you went straight from Arizona to Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And then you went from Florida to Peoria?
To Springfield. I came straight here, yeah.
So how did your stuff get here? Like, where's all your clothes and your TV? Like, where is all that stuff?
Yes. So my car was still in Frisco when I was in Arizona. My car stayed in Frisco. It went from Frisco, and then it stayed there after the trade. I went to Jupiter. It was still in Frisco, and then it went from Frisco to here. And then that was like I was traveling with everything. I feel like as a professional baseball player, you get pretty good at traveling light. Like everything that I need can fit into 2 suitcases, you know. So I was traveling with my stuff. My car was still in Frisco. It got here. 2 weeks later, I shipped it off to Arizona because I went to the fall league. So I really didn't have a car for like probably 3 months.
Okay, more logistical questions. Who's paying for all that? Like, is that something you pay for, Texas pays for, or St. Louis pays for?
St. Louis paid for one of the shipments. I had to cover all the other ones.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's such a weird thing. Because, I mean, you could have driven, but that would have been a mess, too.
Yeah, it would have been a lot of driving, yeah.
Yeah, that went way too much driving. Gosh, that's such a mess.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are the things I think about. Because, like, I had to move here from California, and, like, the moving logistics, just that one move is enough.
Yeah.
But I guess, if you travel light, that makes it a little bit easier. You were also, from my understanding, doing Rangers U, right? Like a university kind of thing, doing some schooling. When you get traded from Texas, are you allowed to still be in Rangers U?
I still get calls about it all the time. So maybe, I'm not exactly sure. But I wasn't actually doing it at the time. I stopped doing it like at the very end of spring training in 23.
Okay.
But no, I didn't really have any plans of picking that back up after the trade.
You should just see if
is
it like a lifetime membership that you get.
It might be. Like I said, I still get the calls. I just typically don't answer.
That's such a trip. You played in the fall league, like you mentioned. You went from here down to the fall league and ended up pitching down in Arizona for that. You're also playing with Robert Hassell, was on your squad too, who was obviously a massive trade in the Juan Soto trade. Did you guys ever talk about that at all?
We did actually, yeah. I was just asking him about it. Like his trade was a little bit bigger. I mean, that was a huge like blockbuster trade. So I asked him about it, and we said very similar things. Like at the end of the day, it really presented like a new opportunity with a new org that obviously wanted you in some way or another. So it was cool. Like there was actually a lot of people in the fall league that, not even on our team, but other teams that had just been traded, and the team wants to see him play, whatever it is. So
that's who else have you talked to about that?
I didn't really get to talk to many of them, but there was a couple of them. Nasim Nunez was there. I think he was in a trade. Like Jake Eater was in a trade last year. We played against him a couple times. He was playing in Glendale. I'm sure there was more, but there was a handful of people that were involved in trades there.
Yeah, I know that a lot of guys kind of feel like that's a whirlwind the first time around, and then after that it kind of settles. Have you kind of settled now?
Yeah, it didn't take very long. Like being in rehab, I think made it take longer because I went from being in Arizona in rehab to Jupiter in rehab, instead of going from like playing baseball, which is essentially all we're here to do. Like it's what we like to do. It's what we get paid to do. I wasn't doing that at the time, so really all it just felt like a trade. And then I started playing baseball again, and that's when it started to feel like I was able to settle in.
You've had to deal with some injuries throughout your career, which is obviously a super downer. And like you said, you're rehabbing at that time, dealing with some shoulder stuff. And when you get traded and you join a new organization, like is that one of the first things they talk to you about? Like how did that transition go from on the rehab front, transitioning a rehab organizationally?
It was different. Like I feel like all teams approach it differently. So it was trying to get to know how they do their rehab while not completely abandoning what I was doing at the time, which was working, was a big adjustment. So
I'm sure. As we record this, I'm sure by the time people are watching it, you'll be back on the diamond. But right now, you've been a little banged up too, and you haven't been throwing. So when you're still obviously developing and all that, and still trying to pursue getting better and all that. When you're hurt and you're shut down from throwing, but you're still with the team, you're traveling with the team, like what are you doing right now? Like how does that work when you can't necessarily go out and physically do a whole bunch of things? What are you doing to try and get better at this time?
So I'm still able to do everything except for throw pretty much. So I'm able to lift, I'm able to condition, I'm able to get treatment in the training room. So a lot of it was rest at first. Because of the injection, we had to rest for a while because there was a lot of inflammation, a lot of fluid in there. And then once we could start doing things, then we started to address certain deficiencies, like weaknesses, things like that, and try to attack those head on. That way, when we get back or we get closer to throwing, those things aren't as glaring anymore.
How do you do you know that stuff, like the deficiencies? Like, is that a word that they use when they're talking about it? Because, like, I don't know, maybe I'm a little too soft. Because, like, if someone's like, oh, you're deficient in this, I'd be like, man, geez, I'm trying to pitch here. Like,
yeah.
Is that getting in your head at all, or do you even know that stuff?
Not really. I mean, I feel like being injured as many times as I have has given me a unique opportunity to learn about this stuff. So I'm pretty aware of like what I lack and what I don't, and it's like I never take like personal offense to it. Obviously, like I want to stay healthy for season after season after season. So, I mean, it's not like a bad thing to be weak in something. It's honestly like an opportunity to get better at something more than anything.
I'm assuming they bring that up to you. Like, these are the things we want you to work on while you have this time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are you doing, like, when you're resting, right? When they're just like, all right, we're shutting you down completely. Do you, like, don't even move. Like, we don't want you to move a muscle. Does that get, like, monotonous and boring?
Yeah, that was the worst part of this. The first probably week, 2 weeks was really, really boring. Like, I would go to the field, get treatment when I could, and then just sit around and wait for the game.
What are you doing? Like, are you just hanging out in the clubhouse? Like,
yeah, hanging out in the clubhouse, playing cards. I don't know, hanging out with the team, whatever it is. I like watching bullpens too. So.
Okay, well, you got plenty of them to watch.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then you're also like sitting on bus rides and stuff too. So you're just like, hanging out. You're just vacationing. You're like a retiree at that point. It's
been interesting, like just kind of being like a part of the team but not playing. It's weird. It's not normal at all. It's not like, it hasn't been a lot of fun, but it's honestly like, it's given me a new reason to love the things about the game that a lot of people don't love. So,
well, on that front, then, how is your development going then right now, since you haven't been able to throw so long?
It's good. I mean, we're pretty close to being back to throwing. There's really, at this point, like, we're kind of just counting down the days and making sure that everything's ready to go. But yeah, it's been good.
What about, like, I know that your changeup and slider have kind of been an ongoing thing that you're trying to work on. What is that like? Is there anything you can do with that when you're not able to throw?
Yes and no. Like, obviously I can't work on like the actual skill of throwing the pitch, but I'm able to go back and watch video. That's something that I've done, is go back and watch video and kind of like, it's very interesting. So I was actually talking to my roommates about this the other day. It gives, like, being in this environment, like, what I'm doing right now is typically an off-season thing, like not throwing, you're working out, you're conditioning, but you're not throwing and you're not really in a baseball environment. But I'm doing all those things while still being able to watch games, watch bullpens, watch my own video, and just be in a baseball environment where I can talk to my teammates and coaches. So I'm able to go back and watch video. If I have an idea of something that I want to improve, I can talk to a coach, I can watch it in the game. Things like that. It's actually a pretty cool like opportunity.
When they're not letting you throw, is it like you're just like holding a ball? Like, come on, man!
Yeah.
Like, come on.
It's pretty bad. I always fidget with the baseball, but at this point, it's getting really bad.
Yeah, I mean, nobody saw it. Obviously, we weren't rolling it. When we got in here, you pulled that ball, and you were starting to just kind of rub it up. And...
I'm pretty bad about that.
I mean, like, man, pitcher's got to pitch. Like, I get it. It's probably tough.
2-2 here. Swing and a miss, strike three. Roby with the breaking ball gets that third K of the frame.
Second K for Roby, and a beauty as he pulls the string.
All right, Tekoah, we do this every single time on one of these. We do the Cardinals Quickfire, so I just rattle off a bunch of questions at you and see you handle it, see how you handle it. This is just a bunch of random stuff that has nothing to do with each other. So, your first one here on the Cardinals Quickfire, you and your brothers all rhyme your names, Tekoah, Ukaya, and Jonah. If you have kids, are you going to do something like that?
No, probably not.
Hard no?
Not a hard no, but just at first thought, probably not.
Is it just like a fun thing that your family did?
I think they liked it. They're all pretty unique too. I mean, Jonah's a little more common just because it's in the Bible, but still like not crazy common.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Your dad is a high school principal. Does that mean you were a good student?
I was a good student.
Was that why? Because like dad was like he was in the system. He knew he was going to watch you the whole time.
I guess. I don't know. I guess I was always just good in school. Like I don't know. My parents did a good job at making sure school was important before he was even a teacher, because he wasn't a teacher. He was a teacher before principal, and he didn't start teaching until I was in, I think, probably 6th, 7th grade.
Oh, okay. So, but before that, still getting A's and still doing homework. And
Oh yeah.
Were you a kid that came home, did homework right away?
No, not really. I did it when I hopefully I could do it at school. That way I didn't even have homework. But
Nice. Did you ever take a weird class while in high school?
well, I mean, not really a weird class. The most interesting class I took was like AP Computer Science,
Oh.
and I was very outmatched in that class.
Did you take the AP test for that?
I did.
Did you pass?
No.
Okay,
I
so
did
you don't
not.
have any college credits?
No,
Okay, unless it's Rangers U.
unless
What is? I know you've played in a couple of big ones. So what's the most memorable ballpark you've played in?
I think the Braves Stadium. I got to play in that one in like a showcase type event, and that was really cool because it's the closest stadium to where I'm from, and that was right after they built the new one, so it was really cool.
Oh, so it's the old Rangers, Braves ballpark.
No, it was the new one.
Oh, so
yeah.
it's Truist. Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, so you're dusting it off here just to start it off. That's nice. When did you get the nickname TK?
When I was 9, I started playing with this travel ball team, and they just started calling me TK. It was one of my teammates at the time was just like, "What's up, TK?" I was like, "Oh, nobody's called me that."
A little roll off the tongue. With
Yeah,
that. Do more people call you Tekoah or TK now?
TK
TK.
for sure.
Okay. When you stop at a gas station, what snacks do you buy? Now that you're shopping better, as we've learned.
Yes, but I mean, if it's a gas station thing, like on a bus trip, I'm probably gonna get something bad. I like the Reese's like animal crackers. Do you know? Have you seen those?
Animal crackers.
Those are really good. I like any kind of like covered pretzel, like a yogurt or a chocolate covered pretzel,
Okay.
and probably like a Core Power and
Okay.
a water.
So a little something a little sweet, maybe a little salty.
Yeah,
Okay.
I love the combination sweet and salty.
Okay, sweet. Alive or dead, one batter you want to face? Really test your skills. If you can get one guy, one at bat.
I mean, at this point, probably Shohei. I want to face him.
Wow. All right. Well, weirdly enough, as we're recording this, it's late June, but Shohei's like on a burner right now.
Yeah.
What would be your attack plan? How do you attack Shohei Ohtani?
I mean, it seems like he can cover all parts of the plate, and so I don't really know. I would have to do a little more scouting, but I think I'm probably just going to go the old-fashioned, like, speed him up with a fastball in, change up down and away, and then probably go back up to a fastball. Like, I'm going to go with my guns.
That's dangerous, dude. That's a dangerous game you're trying to play. Anything fastball in, like he's got such quick hands, man. It's tough.
Yeah.
I'm going. I don't know how to throw at all, but I'd go down and in off speed. When you get that, he can flail a little bit. He'll open up that shoulder. So
Okay.
That's what I'll go with. Who was your favorite player growing up?
Tim Lincecum was my favorite player.
Oh, Lincecum guy. I like that. And you were watching him when he was like crushing it too.
Yeah.
So
In his prime.
Easy favorite guy.
Yeah.
Easy favorite guy. Mentioned the name a couple of times, and a thing that you would do at a gas station potentially. Have you ever seen your name on a souvenir, like
Never.
a keychain or a mug? Nothing.
Never. I always look just in case, but it's never there.
Have you ever met anybody named Tekoah?
No. I know some Dakotas. We actually have a Dakota now here,
Yeah.
but no, I've never met anybody with Tekoah.
I'm sure that like comes up a lot too. Like when people are like, "Oh, Tekoah, that's an interesting name."
Yeah,
That's like a small talk type of thing.
it is. Yeah, typically will warrant some kind of like, "Oh, that's interesting."
And they ask, "Oh, where's that from?" And then you have to do the same story over and over.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll spare you. I've seen you tell the story. Have you ever signed anything weird?
No, not really.
Just ball, glove.
Ball, glove, ticket, lineup card,
Okay.
hat, whatever.
Yeah. Is there anything you wouldn't sign? Like if someone came up to you with something and you're like, sorry, man, I'm not doing that.
I mean, yeah, there's probably somewhere I would draw the line. I think probably like, I don't know. I don't know.
Like body part? Someone comes
Yeah,
like,
I'd probably, I would sign an arm,
Okay.
but I probably wouldn't really go any further.
Go anywhere else,
Yeah.
not going anywhere else. What if someone's like, I'm going to get this tattooed? Like if you sign my bicep, I'll have that autographed.
I would try and talk him out of it, probably.
Yeah, you don't want
Yeah.
you don't want anybody's tatted on you.
No,
That's funny. All right, last one, and this is maybe the most boy question on the planet. What is the biggest animal you could beat in a fight?
okay, so I've talked about this a lot, actually.
See, I told
We've
you,
had
the
this-
most boy question ever.
Yeah, I've had this debate before. I don't know, dude. I think no bigger than probably like a wolf or something like that. Like I just think, I don't know. I think that animals are just, they have like that killer instinct in them. Like it's just, they're born with. I don't know. I think that's probably what I'm going with.
I'm sure, like, given the situation, like life or death, you would probably have
Yeah.
that killer instinct as well.
And maybe if there's more of a docile, like a bigger docile animal, I don't really know. Maybe like I mean, I would never do this, but like I'm sure I could take a manatee in a fight. Those are pretty big.
I'm sure I could take a manatee in a fight. Back on the wolf, what's the attack plan? Like, what are you going for?
I think I'm just trying to get it by its neck.
In the neck.
I mean,
yeah, you gotta fend it off.
Yeah, that way it's not. If I can get it by its neck, then I can. I mean,
You could control it at least.
yeah,
And you got to keep the teeth away.
yeah.
All right. Well, I hope that doesn't ever happen to you. That's the
All right.
goal. Tekoah Roby, TK, thanks for joining us, man.
Thank you.